than perfect.
For those of you who haven't been on with all of our recordings, this is Grace Tan. She has been a speaker at the ladies meeting, and I'm up in Whistler, and she is down in, are you in Burnaby right now?
I'm in Burnaby right
in Burnaby.
now. Yeah.
The ladies meeting meets on the last Tuesday of every month except December. And then we also have an online app where we have learning and training. And so we're going to re-record her talk that she gave on the six
steps for financial foundation.
6 steps for a financial foundation. Her talk was so well received at her luncheon. I asked her to come back and just do this master class on financial wellness, really focusing on women as well. I know recently I just actually got off the phone with a lawyer because I'm having a problem with a car that I purchased. And he's like, you probably have not been treated well enough because you're a woman. And I think he does know, for example, that as women, we don't always ask for what we want, what we need. Mm-hmm. And we're sometimes a little bit too nice and passive. And, I am exactly half a year to turning 49. And my banker's like, so what's your retirement plan? I'm like, I'm going to be talking to Grace this week. I'll get back to you on that.
I'll be excited.
So tell us a little bit more about yourself and your husband. You guys have your own office, and I'm just so proud to know you, I guess, because you guys have done so much, and I can see you constantly working to assist women to become more successful. I know it's not just women, but you've got some great stories to tell of how you've gotten people out of trouble, but more importantly, helping them create success in their life.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Anissa. If you guys are not connected with Anissa, you should definitely, because she's just have a great way of supporting you online and offline. So in person is best is what I love. and basically, she's the kind of person that you want in the corner. So get a chance to talk to her. So in terms of, for my husband and I, we've been in the industry for 14 years now, and just super excited because of the need that's there. Just to give you a little bit of stats that, over 10 years ago, I think in terms of Canadian families not being able to retire was about 80%, something like that. Now it's gone up to about 91% of Canadians cannot fully retire. And it's not because they cannot, it's just really that whole lack of planning. And there's a bunch of factors, lack of planning, and at the same time, programs have been taken away, right? As you know, in terms of the responsibility for retirement is now upon the individual, right, to build that. And also in terms of the higher cost of living, right? Everything is expensive now. So what is $100,000 or $200,000?
I think how we're aging is different too. I live in Whistler, where I actually had dinner with a friend last night, and I'm like, so are you, her banker's asking the same thing. So when are you going to retire? You're going to be 60 soon. And she's like, why would I retire? But I mean, not going into retirement mode sets off a whole other set of financial implications as well. So it's like, are you going to volunteer? How are you going to get your ski pass? Like, there's this other set of questions. And we tend to, like, I volunteer with this lady at Cornucopia every year, Grace Oakes, who's 80. She turned 83 this year. She travels back and forth and skis more days than most people on the mountain. I think she does 170 days if we have snow. So, I mean, the idea of how we retire here in Whistler is really different than it would have been even 20 years ago.
Absolutely. And just, what it would require to live the lifestyle that you want in terms of traveling, in terms of all the things that, people do at retirement, it's definitely a lot more than before. And so inflation definitely comes into play. And in terms of the other thing, I think that's important to differentiate, when I do ask people in terms of retirement, I get the same response of, oh, I don't want to retire. And so I have to differentiate that. Actually, I'm talking about financial retirement, which is when do you want to be able to work, not for money anymore. So that means that you can still continue to work, you could still do what you love, but you're not worrying about money. And So when I explain it in that way, then they're like, well, then I want to retire now.
Well, and I'm in this funny position where I already have grandchildren. My daughter had decided to get married, have kids, buy her house exactly the same time I did. So she's done everything that I did in exactly, like when I was 25, she's 25 now. Basically, she's half my age almost, and she's got the two kids. She's got the house, the husband. They bought their house. And so now I want to be able to go help her out now that she's going, like the kids are old enough, she's going back to work, she's finishing university, she's doing all these great things, and I want to go take some stress off, but I haven't retired yet. So I still need to do my business and work my hours at the gym and things like that. Like it's still, the bills still have to be paid. I can't just go off and do grandma things yet, like you might have if you were retired at 65.
That's right. Well, and financial retirement really is that you have income coming in so that it takes care of all your bills. So you don't have to worry about money, and everything else and is extra, right? And so, and another thing with that, and you mentioned a good point, Anissa, is that it's hard to help your loved ones if you yourself is still needing to set certain things in place. So,
Mm-hmm.
so that's, and we all, especially women, we have that giving heart, and we want to be able to do that, whether it's for our parents or for our kids or for a friend, right? But it's hard to help when you yourself still have those responsibilities. So why not if we can take care of that? Why not if we start working on that so that you can be in a good place, so you can do what you want, anytime, especially when hard circumstances come around, and it's like, hey, you want to be able to be there for your loved ones. You want to have options.
Well, it goes back to that old adage of you need to be able to put your own oxygen mask on first so that you can help other people.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just to give a little bit of background, my husband and I came from working at the Vancouver School Board. We enjoyed that a lot. We loved what we did, and we were blessed that was what we did right after university. But I always knew that it was a stepping stone. At first, I was thinking teaching, right, and then and again, it's the transition makes sense because this is teaching, just in a different capacity or a focused capacity. And so so again, I do feel like I'm doing my life's calling in terms of education. It's in an area where I was, a lot of people can say, hey, well, you're in finance, that's great, and you know about it, but I wasn't always. And this was the reason why I came to this industry, is because I didn't like numbers. One of the first things that I had was a credit card at age 19 that was given to me in university, with the different banks that were there, and I was not wise, about it.
And I had that same story. I worked at Suki's downtown Vancouver, and because of where we worked, we all had really good, even at 19, had really good secure jobs, and the bank gave us credit cards and RSP loans. So we had a little bit of money in the bank so that we could borrow. It was like, you thought, oh, that's great. But it actually ended up being, it became a cycle. And then when I got into student loans, it became a credit card loan cycle. I mean, I was lucky that I was able to have a mortgage at the same time as going to university, so I could pay it off at the end. But I mean, not everybody's that lucky to know that you can own your house and pay your mortgage with your student loans. But I mean, it started out with that cycle right at the beginning at 19 of here's a credit card, and it became this endless cycle of them getting that interest rate off of me right off the top, because I always maxed it out. I always wanted to travel. I went to Europe every time I had 2 weeks off. I'd be over in Scotland or England or doing something.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. And so I think that what's missing there is that not only, I mean, it is fine if it's given, but I think there's that missing educational piece that's there. And that's why I got really, really excited being part of our company, because that was their first focus. Their mission statements, no family left behind. I have not seen necessarily a financial company that's their focus, right? And that's what drew me. And then at the same time, like first and foremost was education and providing choices. So that's what I really, really loved. And that's what drew me, because I wasn't confident in regards to where do I start. And all I knew was, like you said, the cycle of being in debt and then working hard to pay it off, right? And especially as majority of people are needing to take out student loans. And so it's not just starting from zero, it's now starting from a negative, right?
Mhm.
Right off the bat, right?
Yeah, and I already had 2 kids, so it was even harder. But it can be done. The point is, it
Yeah,
can be done though. But
that's the
there
thing.
probably were better ways.
Yeah, and so I think what my husband and I are working hard on is how to first let people know that we exist. Like there is a company that exists that will focus on education and taking the time to sit down with you, listening, and allowing people to ask their questions and not feel rushed. Does that make sense? And however long it takes to understand their program, I think that's how I want my husband and I to stand out with
Mhm.
our office and with our team. It's
Mhm.
in that manner. And then at the same time, to give people that knowledge so that they will have confidence in a way that they can understand. Now, I think that's a key as
Well, and I
well.
think so many people are understanding that there's so many ways to learn these days, especially with like what I do. It's not just teaching people about money, it's about life mastery, it's about business mastery, it's about looking at the whole picture. And there's so many ways to educate yourself. I mean, one of the first classes I took was Millionaire Mindset, which really showed me that it was about getting my expenses down too. It wasn't just
Yes.
about how much money I make, whereas everyone's like, I'm going to make $1,000,000. It's like, it was great. I listened to Gary Vee the other day. He's like, when I was 25, I went from a $2,000 apartment down to a $1,000 apartment because I wanted to save money. He's like, I didn't just instantly have money to invest in Twitter and Uber and all those places. It's like I worked hard and I packed the money away and I wore the same clothes for 3 years. And most people these days don't see that the people that are doing really, really well made a lot of
Where
sacrifices to
they
get there.
started. Yeah, the
Yeah,
sacrifices they took.
yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
to
Like
people.
shopping at the dollar store, doing things,
Uh-huh.
finding the best price on things, going in with other people to get a good deal and getting your expenses down because then you have the money to save and you don't get into debt. But it's
Yeah.
still hard. Sometimes it's not a mindset people have even thought of.
Yeah, that's so funny. That's one of the first seminars I also took. Anissa was a millionaire mindset,
Did you have?
and I was
Okay. Did you find $100 bill?
did no, but I found like a 20. I found like
Okay, so
I
here's
was
one
just
of
like,
my. That was actually the 100. If anyone's been to Harv T. Ecker's Millionaire Mindset, and it was when he still owned it, and they were just bringing on Adam. Um, you were asked to bring $100 bill to the event, and I did not have 100 pennies. I don't think at the time, maybe enough gas to get there. And so, but I did have a silver coin. And I'm like, oh, I got some Monopoly money. So I stuck that in as a bookmarker in my planner. And I took this $50 silver coin that I had, which I don't even know why. Oh, I think my mom gave them to us all in their Christmas stockings, but I really didn't value it that much. But I was like, well, at least I'm halfway there. And they also had said a bunch of people, so we didn't know why we were supposed to bring the $100 bill. And in case they still do it, I'm not going to explain why. But because of just the fact of coming up with $100, now Anthony Robbins tells you to walk around with a couple $100 in your wallet and see what you can think about spending it on and not spending it. So what was life changing for me is I really understood how important it was to understand why and what you were supposed to do and really try and follow this seminar to the letter. And they gave us an opportunity and told us that there were people in the room that had $100 for us, but we'd have to figure it out. I stood up on my chair and I shouted at the guys at the front of the room until I got one of their attention. I said, I have a silver dollar here that I will trade and I will get you the $100 back after the event, not knowing what was going to happen with the $100. Right. And like for me, standing up on a chair to do that, as much as I'm comfortable now standing up in front of a room, I was so out of my zone. It was like probably one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever done in my life. Right. Because I used to be on the stage as a kid, but I went through this whole period after I was divorced of being extremely insecure because I'd been told, a lot of things that weren't true about being ugly and I was never going to make any friends, and being married to someone who really changes your mindset about yourself. It takes a while to get out of that. And so standing up on a chair and asking someone to trade and just decide that I was worth trading for that money, like you can trust me, meant that I had to believe I was trustworthy. And so that there's so many little pieces built into that amazing event that I think has changed a lot of lives. So
that was so awesome. No, when I took it, we didn't have that, but I did learn about the jars. So
The jars are good.
about how to allocate your money so that it is easier for budgeting. Yeah. And so that's so awesome. And yeah, you're right. Like, a big part of that, and good for you, like in terms of first getting outside your comfort zone and recognizing that personal development is really key as well in terms of the worth, and like in terms of like, really looking in terms of attracting wealth into your life, and at the same time just knowing like what you're capable of, and what where you want to go, and it's identifying that, because it's also your thoughts around money, right? Do you think it's evil? If it's evil, then you're not going to attract that in your life, right? So it's about recognizing that relationship as well, that in terms of that, it's just a tool. It's not, you can't buy happiness with money, but money allows you to have choices, and freedom of choice, right? And so that, and that you can work with, versus not being stressed and things like that. But yeah, so one of the things, a couple things that that I did share at the ladies meeting, is that it's just really understanding some of the things that may hold women back. And so one of the things that I did talk about is, and this is just from experience, from different people that I've had, different women that I've come across in my industry in the last 14 years. So one of the blocks that I feel like when it comes to finance is just, if you've had a bad experience before, and so therefore now you've associated dealing with money with that bad experience, right?
Yeah.
So whether you've had a bad experience with somebody, in regards to your finance, or that you got into debt, and then got into the hole and never want to like look at that again.
Well, and I think there's also the shame around that too. That
yeah, the shame, and then also the affirmation of, oh, I'm not good with money, so I'm not even gonna look into it, right? So, or that you were stressed about it, overwhelmed, maybe your feelings weren't taken into consideration, maybe it was memories of your parents fighting over money, so you just you go the other way. So I think the solution there is finding a financial professional that fits with you, and that can help you understand what's going on, and it's somebody that you trust, can take care of that, and it should be somebody that you feel comfortable asking questions, right? And so that's where I think that's important. That's my goal, is to find people who fit with me, right? In terms of because it's got to go both ways, right? And so I can only help the people who are wanting to help, and I think it's the same thing for you as a business coach. Is that right? And you said that.
Oh yeah.
It's you need to find the right fit in that respect as well, right? In terms of people listening to also your advice.
Yeah. No, I have people sometimes. I have one woman that she calls me at least once or twice a year and tells me how great she's doing and how she doesn't need me, and it's like, well, then why are you calling me? You're obviously not a good fit here. Like, well, I did this, and this, and it's still not working, or this worked and that didn't work. I'm like,
yeah. Well, you want somebody that would be
nice therapy class. Yeah, okay.
Well, maybe she needs you in that way. Realistic. But again, like the ideal, would be where you both have a great understanding of the direction where you both want to go, and that to me is a great partnership. So for me, finding someone to work with in this area is a partnership, is their commitment, my commitment to them as well. Number two, I think that I know I'm a bit, this one is for me as well, is procrastination. That's a big one for a lot of women, especially. We put things off for later, especially if we're not comfortable with it, right? So why put ourselves through the pain? But then then it gets bigger, though. The problem gets bigger, and so therefore we don't want that either. So let's address that right away. So I think the solution, and I share this, is a quote from Zig Ziglar. Okay,
I love Zig Ziglar.
I love Zig Ziglar. So you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. And that is the same with this. Whether it's a business that you want to start, a project that you want to start, but definitely when it comes to like being a good steward of your money and building your wealth, you have to start, because time you want time on your side, right? Time is a factor, and the best time is today.
Well, I found when I got back, after I was a little mentally repaired after my car accident, I did a 30-day financial challenge for our Facebook group, which was just recording all of your business stuff every day. And I provided a worksheet and everything. And what I did is it got me on track as well, because obviously I was doing it for myself as much as I was doing it for our group. But doing like the 30-day challenges and things like that and having other people to be accountable to can be amazing.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, definitely. I think, having financial professional to work with you is having that accountability, and it's just having someone to check in with you, because I know that this is a vulnerable area for a lot of people, especially as women, right? And it's looking at the numbers as well, and being looking at where it is, but not being stuck there, obviously, and looking at where we want it to go, regardless where you are on your financial path, right? And so it's so nice having somebody who's not going to judge you. They're there to support you. And now that you know where you are, now you know where you can go, right? So it's the same thing with, I always use the example of, let's say, if you're in your car, right, and you want that direction and you don't have that destination, where would you go, right? So you're just going to go around in circles if, first of all, and you don't know where you are, and you don't know where you're going to go. And that's the same thing with planning for your financial goals, right? And then the third one that I did talk about as well is that lack of confidence, which I also experienced, how we see ourselves and our own worthiness when it comes to wealth building and having money in our bank account. So either we don't have the confidence in our ability to understand, or it's not, in our area of expertise, right? Maybe you're more like me. I'm in the humanitarian arts. Like, that's what draws me. People draw me, right? Numbers don't really. But then I realized, like, these are decisions that we make every day, right? Majority of the women are the ones paying the bills in the household, right? You're taking care of the kids, right? And also planning for them. So really, it's about knowing that you're already doing it. You're already doing it. So how can we do it better, like in terms of the numbers?
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, if we go back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like I was talking about, I did in the motivation section of mastery. If you don't feel safe and taken care of at that lower level, whether it's finances, emotional security, it's harder to take time to go out and do those volunteer things, to try something new, to maybe get the guts up to go and apply for a different job or a raise or you want to feel, but once you feel like you're in the safe zone, whether it's your house is paid off or I have a friend, her house is nearly paid off, so she can look at her retirement with a little bit more fun, and she can choose what she wants to volunteer for and what she wants to get paid for, whether it's helping animals. Like, her passion is earth and animals. Like, she comes over and nearly sorts my garbage for me. Like, okay, she's coming over, hide the recycling because I'm not sure if it's done right. But that's her passion, and she can start to follow her passion because she hasn't procrastinated. She bought into a WHA house, which is Whistler Housing Authority, which is a way to purchase your house in Whistler. So she was able to, buy something, and over the years she's pretty much paid it off. So she's got herself in a very secure position, and it gives her so much personal power, right? Because she didn't procrastinate, because she's got a great financial advisor who got her, to be putting money away and to get the house paid off. So it's just, when we don't procrastinate, we always talk about when we do, but I love to show stories of when we don't and the success stories. And it's not that you're going to necessarily be really, really wealthy. It's that you're really, really secure.
That's right. Yeah. And I think that's the first thing is security, right? And that's why it is important to take a look at where you're at and where you want to go. And just like you plan everything else, if you think about it, we plan for vacation and we plan months in advance, right? And when we plan for like milestone birthdays. I know I planned for my mom's 65th birthday, surprise birthday. It was like 3 or 4 months ahead. I mean, if you're planning for a wedding, at least almost 2 years, right? For
Mm-hmm.
one day, a magical day at that.
Absolutely.
And so, but then when you think about financial planning, right? Like, you're lucky if you have a family that's looking at it for 2 hours in a year, right? And so it doesn't connect, right?
Mhm.
So that's where for me, my goal is to want to make it more enjoyable, actually, that people look forward to looking down and seeing where their numbers are at and where they want to go,
I
because
think you're
about their
because
dream.
I mean it was great to meet your mom, and it was great to hear a little bit of your family story as well, because it's not you didn't start out where you are now, right?
No, no, not at all. Yeah. So when my mom, actually, in the Philippines, for some of you who may know, that their biggest export in the Philippines is not their mangoes or coconuts, it's actually people, talented, skilled people. And I remember reading, when I was doing a paper on this, that it's majority is the mothers that leave the country. Some are dads, but it's usually the moms, because they say that moms are more adaptable in a new environment, and they're emotionally able to take that on. So that's why it tends to be the moms who leave the country, because it's not enough to live in the Philippines and get by. And so for my mom, when it opened up, um, and she was a registered nurse, the first country to open up for her to work elsewhere was Saudi Arabia. And that's where I was born.
That
And so
blows me away.
yeah. So I didn't stay there. I didn't like it's me. My passport is in Arabic and English, so that always is kind of crazy. But I didn't stay there. I grew up in the Philippines, and so for a lot of times, like, of course that happens because because they're looking for financial stability.
Yeah.
And the scary thing is it still happens to today. Like, families are apart because of financial reasons. And
Mm,
and in the North America, it still happens that way in terms of shift work, right?
yep.
Dads are working during the day or mom's working at night. Like, either way, they don't see each other.
Right.
And they're just there with, obviously, for the kids. So you're lucky if you have grandparents or parents that can help take care, like you say that you want to help out.
Mhm.
Would you
Well,
not?
my kids were lucky that my parents worked from home, so and all of us, their dad and his wife, my mom and dad and me, we all lived within about a 10-block radius from their school. So, I mean, my kids are really unusual in that they got raised with fully, like I was at my mom and dad's 3 to 5 days a week for 20 years, right
Yeah,
after, you know.
yeah. So having family support is huge in that respect. So, but then again, that's where, like, the marriage is challenged, right? Because there isn't time to build it. That families are challenged because kids are growing up not with both of them there at the same time, and everyone's busy. So therefore, like, again, finances is a big part of that. So imagine if they don't have to worry about that, so then therefore there could be more, like, our goal is to help in this area so families can focus on being a
And
family.
I just heard the funniest statistic from a friend in North Vancouver who said his daughters, there's only about three in his daughter's school. There's only about three families are divorced, which is
Oh,
so.
really?
I know. Yeah, I was like, what? How'd that happen? But it's a financially stable community,
Wow, interesting. I'll
right?
tell you, like, it's interesting you mentioned that, because when I was looking into it, they said the number one cause for divorce is financial challenges, and then number two is adultery. So I thought it was the other way around. I was really surprised about
Keeper to keeper.
that.
Not
Um,
that song.
that's right. That's right. So again, going back, like to gain,
Right.
we want
Back
to
on
gain
track.
we want to gain confidence through practice, right? How do we get good at anything? They say it takes 10,000 hours to master a skill. Well, you don't have to master the skill on your own. You know, that's where you like, that's why we have doctors when it comes for health things. And then, you know, we have accountants for our taxes, right? I don't need to do them, but I do need an accountant to kind of help me understand the basics, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to finance, it's the same thing. It's very important to work with somebody in this area and lean on their expertise, but at the same time, you know, you have that communication, so you understand, right, what's going on.
Well, and I think that if you have someone that you work with, even just check in with once a month. The other saying that I've just fallen in love with is repetition reduces resistance.
Oh yeah,
Which is, you know, if you just in that, if you start building the repetition of doing something, it's just like when you learn to meditate, if you learn to manage your money, if you learn to keep $100 in your wallet at all times, there won't be that resistance eventually. It'll just be part of who you are.
That's right. That's right. So, absolutely. And so, for those who may not have somebody working with them, definitely I'd love for you to reach out and message me and see if we're a good fit and see if we can get started on taking a look at that.
I love the story how you did start working with a woman, and are you going to get to that later or?
Yeah. Well, I was going to go through the steps, right?
Okay,
So
I'm
the
going to shut up
topic.
now. You go.
And so,
I got so much out of your talk, and I
oh,
don't want
thank
you to
you
miss any
so
of
much.
it.
And so I did ask the group a couple of questions. So I think this is the same thing for those of you guys who are listening to think about. You know, my questions were: if you save the next 5 years the same as the last 5 years, are you okay with that? And if you're not okay with that, then therefore, you know, some changes need to take place. This is perfect time because I know the end of the year, the month, and we're gonna be writing, you know, personal goals and business goals for the new year, and you want to get that started now, not in the new year, right? This is the time to check in on that and see, you know, where we could help you with that. The other one to think about is if something happens to you, whether it's critical illness, disability, or you know even death, right? Because we know that happens. We know stories where that happens. Is your income protected for your family and legacy to continue? So for your family or even the business that you're holding up. So we want to make sure that's taken care of. Is your retirement set and guaranteed? Is it guaranteed that that's there? If not, what's your plan? What's your plan B? So again, it's looking at the numbers. And so, and then the last question that I'd love for you to find out is who do you know that can benefit from, you know, after you have had a chance to kind of see what we're talking about today. Who can benefit from that? If you're already good where you are and everything is wonderful, that's awesome. But you didn't get there by chance; it was planned. So who do you know that can benefit from that and would love to reach out to them? And so you know, Anissa talked about like different stories that we have, and so I'll go through the 6 steps because then it'll make a little bit more sense. So
And we'll have a download for anyone that's listening as well.
okay, awesome, great. And so one of the things to think about before I go into the 6 steps is right now, what are your top 2 or top 3 financial goals that you're going to have for the year 2020 or even 5 years right from now, 2025,
So I
right?
can't believe we're at 2020.
So
I
I
remember I
know
was blown away when I got a credit card for 2013. I think it was 2009, and I had to take a credit card that expired in 2013, and I was like, wow.
yeah, it's true. It's true. Actually, now that you mention it, my credit card expires in 2020, and I thought that was so far away. So, you know, what are your financial goals? Is it paying off that debt? Is it the mortgage that you want to be paid off? Is it kids, you know, college education that you want taken care of? Is it traveling? Is it, you know, making sure that we're talking about retirement? You know, do you have that in place where you know X amount of dollars is coming every month to you, and you're like, I'm good with that, right? And so therefore you can do whatever projects that you're wanting. So think about what kind of financial goals that you have, even alongside with your income goals, right? So we talk about income, but it's also what are we going to keep, right? What are we going to keep to prepare for that? Is the emergency fund. So keep those goals in mind as we go through these 6 steps. So the first one that we start with for all couples and families and individuals is cash flow, right? So what is going in, what is going out? So your monthly income that's regular minus monthly expenses, that's your cash flow. So is it positive, negative, or breaking even? And so if it's negative or just breaking even, we definitely need to talk, right? In terms of, again, Anissa said, in terms of like, maybe it means it's looking at lowering that lifestyle that we're so used to, that, you know, do you really need that coffee every day, right? Or like, are there ways to go, you need coffee, but let's find another way.
I think I sent you that Gary Vee video. If you're drinking a $7 coffee and whining about being poor, fuck you. You know, like, you're not really taking care of things. Like, I drink black coffee because that's what I got used to studying on black coffee because I couldn't afford food at the time. And now I drink black coffee because it just makes sense. It means I can put the other $4 in the bank. But I mean, it's just like, are you doing stuff that makes sense? Everyone's like, oh my God, your daughter bought a house at 25. I'm like, yeah, she knows how to shop at Value Village.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was at the Reuse It Center here in Whistler. We don't have Walmart. We have the Reuse It Center, which has everything you will ever need at some point. And this girl was like, oh, it smells. She was 13 and she's like, this Lululemon doesn't smell like in the store. And you see her mom just like dying of embarrassment. And then her son's off going, Mom, I got a tennis racket. You know, and he was just like, I got a tennis racket, right? It's $2. And she's like, get it. And I pulled a grandma moment because I knew I kind of got the impression it would be okay. And I said, you know, when you go to have a mortgage and you can't afford to buy that brand new piece of Lululemon, your mom has taught you an amazing lesson to come and shop at a store like this because you might actually get exactly what you want for the price that you can afford when you want to buy a house. And then I turned around, shut up, and her mom was like, thank you. I said, you have a really good mom here. You might want to listen to her.
Well, and it's a teaching moment, right? You know, because part of it is what are we wanting to teach in terms of financial stewardship, or is it keeping up with everybody else?
Yeah, my daughter's first paycheck, when she first got her first paycheck from McDonald's or White Spot, I can't remember. She didn't last at McDonald's for too long. It was very loud. She got her first paycheck. We went to Ardene's at the mall. She found this wallet. She was like going to put all her money in. She looked at the price, turned around and she says, let's go to Value Village. She found the exact same wallet for $2.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
Law of attraction. Law of attraction.
I think there was a Value Village near my house, and we also went. And I do remember not wanting to tell people that I did, but now looking back, I'm announcing to all I went to Value Village, right? Because you realize, you know what? Actually, like, I'm also learning the importance of reusing. I'm really working towards my environmental awareness as well. Just the power of that. There's so many good things, but when you're young, of course, you know, you don't want to like stick out or you know, in any way. But when you're older, actually, you want to know what sets you apart.
Yeah. Well, they say up here at the Reuse It Center, the average item, which I just think this is so cool, the average item goes through the Reuse It Center 3 times.
Wow.
So because I'll buy a piece of clothing, wear it a few times, and I'll redonate it. And that happens all the time because you know, we're all extremely environmentally conscious. We don't have garbage pickup. So you can't just put in the trash. You have to deliver your garbage, and it's at the Reuse It Center. So you might as well recycle it, right?
That's awesome.
I think the mindset is really changing.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that's working towards that. Yeah, so budgeting, I want you to think about what certain habits do need to change, and you know it. So it's just taking a look at that. I find actually this is when it's big, especially if couples have different ways of spending and saving, or they have different views on that, or it's a topic that's tense for the relationship. We do get to come in and help be that third person to
financial therapist.
Something like that, to have a plan together. And
honey, here's your to-go cup. You're having homemade coffee. He's like, I'm going to Starbucks.
That's right. Well, again, it's now when perhaps needing that third person to come together and agree on it. So now it's not like your word versus my word, right? So it's like it's instead we work on this is our plan together,
Yeah.
right?
The
And
ownership of it.
yes, yes. And so, and especially as women, we become emotional when it comes to these things. So it's just, how can we work it so that it is a good experience and it's your choosing. I think there's a quote is choosing to making sure not letting go of what you want the most by what's the word like it's a good quote. It's like by focusing on your efforts on actually like the least like that's today because we want it now, whereas actually delayed gratification is what's needed to actually get the one that we really want. So that's the whole idea of the quote. When I remember it, I will tell you.
Well, I think we forget how much our childhood affects those decisions, even when we have a partner as well. Like I grew up with parents who traded their time for, we lived in a church commune type situation where we just got a draw at the end of the month. So I never saw my dad actually going out to work and bringing home a paycheck in the typical sense, because our meals and everything were provided. I had dinner with 140 people every night, the most like beautiful food you can imagine, and like we were like rich kids, but there was no money involved. It was a trade for service in many ways of running the ranch and the farm and the conferences that we ran. And so it was very hard for me to go to the grocery store and spend money. To this day, it's still like, it's like organic food costs more. And it's like, I used to go pick it in the garden. That's just how I was raised. And so financially, it's been really challenging. Even now at this age, it's still part of who you are. Mm-hmm. That going out to a job was not part of my parents' mentality. And I mean, my mom pulled it together in the end, and we had a mortgage breaking party in their early 50s. She really was good with money, but she also was to the dark side of, she did her books every single night and she never played. She never had fun. Mm-hmm. So I and she'd always make you feel guilty for doing anything exciting. She came from a Baptist background, and it was just like, what do you mean you're going to go on vacation? It was like, well, what's the point of playing? Like working so hard if you can't go play a little.
That's
and
right.
Today, I still fight with the concept of going on a vacation because she never did, and she's finally now in a home where everyone plays bocce ball and stuff, and she's learning to play, and it's the happiest I've ever seen her in her whole life.
Yeah.
I couldn't have given her $1 million to go play bocce ball 5 years ago. Because her whole focus was on paying off their house, which I know she needed to do. I mean, so it's finding that little bit of balance too.
It is. I mean, it's the same thing, that was taught the millionaire mindset as well, that jar for play money. Mm-hmm. You still have that, maybe 10% of your money goes towards that.
Balance.
And so again, it is about balance, that you have something that's there where you could put it towards, what fills your soul, whether it's a course or or an event that you want to go to or things like that. That's there, right? But you don't want 80% of your money going there. So it's 10% and then it's allocated. Yeah. But again, it can't just all be, just storing for the future, but you're not actually enjoying. So again, I'm glad you mentioned there is a fine balance between there. But I did want to say, when we are looking at the cash flow and when we're looking at the numbers, this is where, for me, especially when I'm sitting down with women, is where it's so important to be sensitive and considerate and reassuring, because it is vulnerable to say, hey, these are my numbers. I know it's not looking good. And there's, like you say, a lot of guilt or shame with that. And my goal is to make people, to help people feel more comfortable. And now, looking towards forward thinking. There's, okay, what can we do, right? And
even just starting to talk about it and having conversations and being open, it feels so good.
It does. It really, really does. And it's just shedding light on that. And I think there's something so powerful about having a plan, having a plan that's working towards what you want,
Mhm.
and then moving to, and then taking action. So that's where I get to really help.
Okay, so just to what step are we on now?
We are now on number 2.
Okay.
Number 2. Oh my goodness, this could be like hours of a master class.
I know.
Number 2, this is a very important topic that I love to talk about. It's about having proper protection. I kind of touched on it earlier, how important it is to have life insurance, critical illness, and disability. I asked a group as well, like, how many people do you know, like a loved one, where something happened and it was sudden, right? It was sudden, whether it was like cancer or disability where they were off work for, a number of years, right? And so I shared, like, for instance, we do have car insurance because that's mandatory, and we have house insurance to protect the house in case of fire. People have iPhone care to protect what? The phone, right? And what's life insurance, critical illness, and disability? What protection? What does that protect? It protects you and your family, right?
Mhm.
So my question is always like, well, what's the most important in everyone's lives, right? Like, that order, the car, the house, the iPhone, or is it you and your family? Most people will say, me and my family, right?
Well, a lot of people don't realize there's lots of ways to get health insurance. So yes, you can buy it through a provider and just do straight, like I have life insurance through Canadian, whatever. But when I first moved here after my car accident, I really needed health insurance, and there was a company I could go work under 20 hours a week and get health insurance. Like, the bar was so low to get really good health insurance. It was
Awesome.
amazing.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that's for some people, it was like, I think it was like basically you had to work 3 days a week, but it was night shifts. So it didn't take away from, I was a single person. It didn't really matter. And it was just that sense of security gave me time to just readjust and feel good and feel secure. Again, feel secure.
Secure. Security and freedom. Those are the two things.
Well, knowing that, because you need glasses, you might need acupuncture. Now, I mean, most healthcare things now cover acupuncture, chiropractic, like all the stuff that used to be extras, like it's so covered now. And it lets you get back into a good mindset, feeling good, because feeling good can be just so huge. It's everything.
Yeah, having your family taken care of is very important in yourself, right? So, but one of the things is really, everybody tells me their family themselves are the most important. But then, everybody has their car insurance in place, their house insurance in place, their iPhone care in place, right? But their life insurance, their critical illness and disability has not been looked at for many years. And so that's where we really come in, and we want to make sure that they are properly protected, and not just for now or not just for 10 years from now, but what does it look like at age 65? What does your plan look like? So sometimes people don't know too, like, if sometimes they have it with work, but we just consider that bonus, because the moment your work changes, guess what? You're no longer covered.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to make sure you have a personal one, right?
Well, and even being over covered, like I owned 2 houses at one point. So the amount of life insurance that I needed when the kids moved out, because they're both fully employed, the kids moved out. I sold both the houses. All I need is money to get. They each get $100,000 when I die, and that's really all I need right now at this point until I buy another house. And I didn't need to spend $300 a month, which gave me money to work on other financial stuff.
Yeah, so
it's not a matter of just life insurance, but now I can take money and invest it instead, right? So it's not the right amount.
That's right. It's about finding out what works for you in now and also in the future. And so it's about understanding, right? Like, because sometimes people think that these insurances cost more than they really are. So it's actually, get to know the numbers. There's always something that will fit your budget, right? Because there's all different kinds that we can put together to custom build it for that.
Well, I think when Hannah was born and she's 25, I had a $25 life insurance policy because that's all I could afford, but it was better than nothing. Like, if something happened to me, she had some cash.
Yeah, and the thing with that is, like, you started off with that, so now how can we improve on that? So sometimes people have that, and I congratulate them for having it in the first place, right? For what they could have at that point. So now it's reviewing it. Is what you have right now where it needs to be. And so that's where I come in again. It's reviewing what's not working and change what's not working. And then, what is working, that's awesome. Just add on to it, right? So I did want to talk about, and thank you, Gina, if you are watching, Gina Best, because she's,
Oh, hey, Gina.
yeah, so
Just
she's so
thinking about
awesome.
you.
She was helping me as well prepare for my talk, and she said, share my story, because I think it's such a powerful story. So Gina Bess was, she's a mortgage broker, right? At the same time, coach, and so and so one of the things was that she was sharing, and she said she also had financial planning background as well. So, but because of her diabetes, she was not able to get critical illness coverage. So sometimes one of the things that I want to share as well is, we can't assume that we're always going to just get covered when we want to get covered, right? You still have to go through qualification,
Yeah.
right? And a big part of that is your health. So when are we the most healthy? Right? Is today.
That's something that was really drilled into me about getting that life insurance really early, is that if anything happened, and I got to watch that with my dad because he was a smoker. My mom was pissed because she couldn't get life insurance at the rate that she wanted. Even 10 years after he quit smoking, it's still, obviously it's still affecting his health. And it's just, I get why they do that, because he's on dialysis 4 days a week, and that's from being a smoker. And the cost of that insurance goes up so much if you don't start with it really, really early when you have no barriers.
Oh yes, we've been finding that we are doing a lot more protection for babies, just because parents do see us as an investment in their kids, right? And allowing the investment inside the insurance to grow. So they're wanting to get that started for them as young as possible, because the rates are so reasonable.
Well, and I had my friend in high school had a shotgun wedding before we graduated, and her dad put a life insurance policy on her new husband.
Wow.
It was smart. It was a good investment, because they eventually took that and put it on a house, right?
Exactly. So so with Gina, actually, she was not able to get qualified for her critical illness. So when she did get cancer, she had no choice but to use the savings to meet the financial responsibility. So we are living in a wonderful country where we do have our medical taken care of, right? But there are certain things that are not taken care of. So when we cannot work, right? Who takes care of the mortgage payments or the rent payments? Who takes care of the car loans? Who takes care of all of that? Well, it's us. It's our ability to earn, right? So if we're not earning because we're rehabilitating, right? Then therefore, then everything shuts down. And thank goodness she had savings, right? To fall back on and depleting that. But is that what you want when things happen? Do you want to, all the things that you worked so hard for, your retirement or your emergency and all that, do you want all that gone when that happens? And do we know when these things happen? We don't, right? So important to have that in place. So then that way, then when things happen, you are taken care of. And she shared that with her friend, had critical illness coverage, and when she got cancer, she was able to receive that lump sum money, right? And with that money, she was able to pay her mortgage, so she didn't have those payments that she would normally have. So that's a big lesson, is getting things in place, right? Because we cannot assume that we will always get it. And when people want it is when they're starting to feel something, and that's when they might not get approved. So the lesson is to really get that done, get things in place that you want, not just for now, but for the future, and have it be properly assessed, right? So you can have that. Okay. And so, yeah, so even for, and I talked about too that, one of my mentors in the company, when he was 14, his dad had passed away. And so his mom was a stay-at-home mom, and there was no life insurance in place. And so what ended up happening was the banks took their farm and their home away, right? And so when you cannot pay that mortgage, right, well, you're going to lose it. So again, it's just another example to have things in place. And the best way to think about this is, we like there's that whole strike that's coming with the SkyTrain, right?
Again?
Again, for the SkyTrain this time instead of the bus. But that affects them as well because they don't get their full pay for that day, right, when they're on strike. I know that when I was at the school board, that was always a concern when the teachers were on strike. So people worry about not having a job for a month or two, right? Like that's already like scares them. But when things happen to our health, right, either major disability or critical illness, that is lost income, not just for a month or two, right? That could be a year or more or years, right? And if something happens to us, and death is a whole thing altogether, right? That's our family will not only be emotionally distraught, of course, with what happens to us, but at the same time, their recovery, right, is how many years. So you don't want to.
We know how stress affects our health so much.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. So this one is a big one. It's
okay, so number two, just to repeat,
number two is getting proper protection. Okay?
Right.
Making sure you have proper coverage, life insurance, critical illness, disability. If you have it, great. So this is the time to check on it. Check it, review it, make sure that it's what you want. Number three is debt management, right? We talked about what's the difference between a good debt versus bad debt, right? Good debt is debt that, will help increase your net worth over time. So you borrow money to make more money, right? To build up your assets. So for some people, they say it's a mortgage, right? It's building your assets and net worth over time. A bad debt, of course, is the other way, debt that will decrease your net worth over time. So what would that be? That would be, credit cards, high interest credit cards. So I shared an example with a teammate of mine, and I can share it because she loves sharing it as well. It's her testimony. When I met her about 4 years ago, she was $35,000 in debt due to her maternity leave. Right? She ended up getting pregnant. She was surprised, but she was happy. But then she was not only taking care of her family, she was living paycheck to paycheck, but she was also taking care of her family in the Philippines. And so she was paying about $700 to $800 a month, servicing the interest, barely paying it down, and it's just growing and growing. And so when I met her, it was $35,000. And so when she saw us, she saw our presentation, and we sat down, we said, let's take a look at how we can help you. She was really skeptical. She was like, how can you help me when the banks told me that they can't help me, because she couldn't qualify for a line of credit, right, to help reduce that, reduce those payments. And so we were able, through a partner company, reduce her debt from $35,000 to about $17,000. Reduce and now 0% interest instead of 20+ interest, right?
Wow.
That's huge. The monthly payments were now about $300 a month to pay off in 5 years. The rest of the money, the $400 to $500 a month, were put in place. We did life insurance policies, critical illness policies for the family, and some tax, like some investments, right? And so when I had checked to see like how is it doing now, 4 years later, so she will be paying off her debt next year. She has 1 more year to go. Yay! And then I had checked the investments in their policies, and she has over $15,000 saved in her policies. Like, it's just
that's
amazing.
So life-changing.
Yeah, and now she can really work towards, because they don't have their own place, right? So that's their next goal, is to build up their business income, really, to get their first home, right? So that's amazing. And then number 4, so that was debt management. So make sure if you have debt, right, like, you want to pay off the highest interest debt first, if you can pay it off, right? If it's under 10 or less, like, you can still have time to pay that off. But if it's more than 10 or more, that's when you want to look into debt structuring.
When I think making that habit of looking at what you owe every month, I actually, in my journal, I have a little spot that I write down how much I owe. So I'm just so conscious about paying that down. And then also I write down, I'll also transfer over what the interest rates are on it as well.
Yes.
Because like your 0%, that sounds amazing. I went to the bank who was willing to, just because I'm having this car issue, I want to buy out this car so that the lien is released off of it. And so they're willing to, from the one bank, um, they're willing to do something at 6% that's already at 9% and include all my credit cards that are at between 9 and 11. And it's like, well, you really got to take the time to do all that math. And it can be really
Yeah.
life changing as to what your monthly income is
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, and it's just about making a priority. I mean, actually, something that some people could have done. Like if it's less than 10, that's something you can do and see what can work. If you can, there are some credit cards where it is 0% for the year, right? So maybe it makes sense to transfer it there and work hard to really pay that off in that 1 year. And so again, it is about what makes sense for that family. Does it make, if you have mortgage, maybe it makes sense to put it with the mortgage because mortgage rate is maybe about between 2 to 3% versus the 20 something percent. So it may make sense to refinance it and consolidate that, right? Or a line of credit at 10% or less. That it maybe makes sense to do that and do it that way. But then when you're looking at $35,000 or more than the 10, 15, 20, and it gets up there, then it's really, you're not going to be able to pay that off. That's when it really makes sense to take a look at this debt restructuring program. So again, sit down. We'll have to sit down and see if it makes sense for you in that respect. Okay. Number 4, it's emergency fund. Number 4 is emergency fund, saving for emergency. And do emergencies happen? Absolutely. Like the other day, my husband, like our car, the wheel got a nail in, and we had such a really nice, kind stranger, actually, Anissa, that was driving behind us before we got onto the highway. That gave told us to take a look at our tire, and I'm so glad that they did because that could have been a dangerous situation. So please, like, I'm just going to share out there, don't just be a bystander, I guess. If you see something is wrong, inform people, and that makes that, yeah,
Life changing.
Life changing. So that means so much to me, and so I'm gonna work hard to make sure too somebody's needing help, right? Like we do our best to serve
Pay
them.
forward.
That's right. So in terms of emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of income set aside. So if your income is $3,000 a month, you're looking at $9,000 to $18,000 a month saved up. If your income per month is $5,000, you're looking at $15,000 to $30,000. And if you're thinking like, oh my goodness, I'm not even close, well, let's get started on that. Don't get overwhelmed that you don't do anything. Let's break that down. Let's start with something. Okay. Number 5, asset accumulation, making sure your money is working hard for you, right? So inflation in Canada over the history of the last, over 50 to 60 years has been about 3.6%. So if your money is earning less than that, our money is losing money then, right? So if it's just in a savings account earning 0.25 or 0.5 or even 1, it's still not good enough. So you want your money to earn more. And that's where it's very important to make sure that it's invested and you talk to a financial professional regarding this and what makes sense for you. Okay, so this includes your tax-free savings account, your registered retirement savings plans, your kids' education plans, and as well as your RIFs, right? Your pension and your RIFs. If you have that, you've got to make sure that that's working for you. Okay, so all those plans need to be working for you. You cannot just be like earning zero. You work so hard for it, so you got to make sure that that's there. And just in terms of this, I have a client where we were able to help them right from the beginning when they first started working, set money aside. And then from that, it was just a timing thing that during the, during the time where in terms of like the real estate going up, like her parents was willing to give her some equity of their home, and then with the money that we saved through her RRSPs and tax-free savings account, she was able to buy her first property in Burnaby, and I was glad to have that, and all because that started when she first started working. So we were able to build that habit, and that's just so awesome, right? So you're never too young and never too old to
Well,
get
they
this.
say if you can save $7,000 when you first start working and save it at 10%, you're basically going to have $1,000,000 at the end. But the trick is to just start.
Yeah, exactly. So don't feel like, oh, it's too late for me. No, like even right now, there are things we can do to make sure that that
Well,
money.
I look at like my mom and dad, they didn't buy their first house. I think I said a number of what their age was, but I was just thinking about it after saying it. They had me at 30, my brother at 40, and I don't think they bought their business until they were in their 50s. And they paid their house off. I forget that they're in their 80s now. So time, how as time goes by, so I think they probably paid their house off by the time they were 65 or whatever. But I mean, that was a very short timeline. Like my mom must have been just piling money on that mortgage, right? So it is possible to get that paid down really quickly if you're working hard and staying focused. And she was a coupon clipper, like
Oh yeah,
every penny counted.
Yeah, I remember those days. Yeah, my mom too, right? We would look at coupons, and actually, for my parents, we didn't do a family trip. It wasn't until we were older that we did, and now if anything, like I feel like because they worked so hard to make sure my brothers and I didn't have a student loan,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's what they worked hard for, and then they bought a home and things like that. So we never did those trips. So I feel like it's my brothers and I, like our responsibility to make sure they get to go on a trip, because they sacrifice that.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the fifth one, which is asset accumulation. So that's number 5. Number 6, lastly, is preserving the estate. So now let's say you have some, you've saved some and things like that. So we want to make sure that not only is it working for you in terms of the rate of return, is it earning over 4%, right? You should look at 5+% in terms of your money working for you. So if something happens to you, is it going to go towards your family, or there's some tax consequences that are happening? So you want to make sure that are you in programs where we're minimizing the taxes, right? And so what if you could move your money to a particular account, you're just moving it so that therefore, you skip probate, things like that. Those are things that to talk about as well. and then in terms of preserving estate and retiring, how much income do you want coming every month from the investment that you set aside? Again, that takes some planning. And part of it is, you as women, we are builders. We think about, what we can pass on to our kids and legacy and things like that. So you work so hard at doing that. So why not we make sure that it's protected? It's making sure that it can go more towards your family, and you are minimizing your taxes, things like that. So that's pretty much it. There's a lot more I can say, but I know that we have talked a lot. We can definitely do like a whole thing on each section.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yes. So, but some people were asking me, like, how does it work with working with me? So I just want to touch on that. Is that we're a financial broker with World Financial Group. We have our own office, but we are partnered up with different companies that you already know and love and exist. We are partnered with BMO, with RBC, with Industrial Alliance, with Equitable Life, Ivari. We have top names in Canada in the areas of investments, insurance, and
I'm just curious because this is going to go on to the Entrepreneur Collective learning platform. So if people are in the States, do you have connections that you can make for them?
Oh yes, absolutely. We have partners in the States where there are tons of offices in the States that we could refer you to that could help you in that area. So
awesome.
And then
yeah. You'll be able to connect with Grace. All of her contact information will be in here, and she'll be part of if you go to the entrepreneurcollective.com and log into the app there, you can create your own profile and then connect with Grace directly as well. And she's really easy to find and connect with. So
yes, thank you so much, Anissa. It was a wonderful having you
awesome.
as always.
Well, and thank you for helping me, because part of my mission statement is to help other people share their message with the world, or sometimes it's just with one other person. And for most people to get the chance to do that, they need to personally feel secure as well. And that means financial security, whether it's having a business that is paying the bills. I've had people come into my mastermind group who aren't bringing home $5,000 a month. And if you're not bringing home $5,000 a month as a woman, you're not necessarily in a really safe space. So I really want people to have that security. And that means working with people like you, working with, for example, Jocelyn DeVisser, and getting a good bookkeeping program, and then laddering into accounting with her. And, like having a plan. We offer a free business, a one-page business plan, which it doesn't sound like a big deal, but again, repetition decreases resistance. So if you get in the habit of keep making plans and visualizing what you have in the future and not worrying about the past and building, then you get to share your message with more people, whether you're an author or a speaker or you've got a widget business. You're going to want to share that with people, but you often need that security that people like Grace and her husband can really show you how to find. And I really appreciate you helping me with my mission, basically.
Oh, no problem. It's such an honor. And you touched on something important, Anissa, is that surround yourself with people who can help you in these areas. You don't have to go through it alone. And what's neat is that there are people there to help you in that area. The same way that people in their own, they're an expert in their area, and people are going to reach out to them for that, right? So it's just being part of a really wonderful community. And Anissa has built such a great community with the ladies meeting in terms of different people with their different expertise coming together, and that's so wonderful. And you want to build really awesome, good long-term relationships with people, because that's the thing. You want to do business with people that you know, love, and trust, right? So
I love it. You switched that up. No love and trust. It's usually no like and trust. You are good. In there.
Yeah, my son went from like to love.
Yeah, I'm all about that. I think sometimes I throw people. I'm like, okay, bye, love you, see you later, and they're like, I'm like, whatever, I love you. Over it. We need more of that in the world. So it's going to be a long time till our next live meeting. So if you want to meet us online, you can either get on the Entrepreneur Collective. You can find us on the entrepreneurcollective.com. But also if you want to find us next year, January, I don't have the date here, but it's always the last Tuesday of the month, except for December, because that would be crazy. And you want to come out, and you're a woman. This is a women's group. The ladiesmeeting.com is our website for that live event. And you can come out to the Sylvia Hotel. It is a membership group. You can come up to twice to lunch for free for no cost to you, or find a guest who will buy your ticket. Sorry, no, you can't come for free. Back it up. It's $30 you don't have to be a member. So there is a cost to coming for lunch as a drop-in ticket. But if you find a member, they can get you a deal. So do connect with, for example, this person who could get you a ticket for $10. So anyway, look forward to seeing you all live and in person on the last Tuesday of January in Vancouver. If you're interested in the ladies meeting, if you're interested in your guy and you're in business, or a couple, we're on the entrepreneurcollective.com, and we have live events. I have a mastermind group that I will be doing in Whistler in January. And I also have, we have YVR Mastermind group that meets in Vancouver at the Sylvia Hotel for breakfast before lunch, so, and online. So
Awesome.
Take care, everybody from Whistler. And I'm going to shut off our recording here.
Okay, thanks, Anissa.